The stars didn't care when the fleet arrived. They just kept burning, cold and indifferent, while 1,000 silver spears pierced Earth's sky like needles through flesh. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the last orbital defense platform, fingers white-knuckled around the railing, watching the impossible become real. The Zareth Dominion had come to collect, not resources, not territory at a debt humanity never signed for, never agreed to, never even knew existed until the emissary ship appeared 3 centuries earlier, with its holographic ledger glowing like Judgment Day. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Marcus Reyes said from Cums, voice steady but eyes wide with the kind of fear that comes when you realize the universe has teeth. He was 26, had a wife and a daughter planet-side in Buenos Aires. Elena didn't look at him. She couldn't afford the luxury of seeing another human face right now and still do what had to be done. Put it through. The main view screen flickered. No face appeared, just a smooth obsidian orb floating in void black space, its surface rippling like liquid night. The voice that came from it was calm, melodic, almost kind, like a parent explaining why the child had to be punished. "Humans of soul, your species has enjoyed the fruits of galactic civilization for 387 years. You were uplifted, given faster than light travel, given medicine that erased your cancers and extended your fragile lives, given the knowledge to heal your poisoned oceans and dying atmosphere. The price was agreed upon in the Covenant of Ascension, 1% of your viable population, harvested at biological maturity, to serve as neural substrate for the Dominion's eternal expansion. The term has expired. Payment is due." Elena felt the bridge crew flinch as 1%, roughly 8 million souls, 8 million people-children playing in parks, parents kissing their kids goodnight, dreamers staring at the same stars now, betraying them ripped from their lives to become wetware components in some vast alien machine mind. The covenant had been signed in secret by terrified governments in 2187, when the first contact delegation arrived and demonstrated what refusal looked like. A mining colony on Titan reduced to molten glass in 17 seconds flat. They had bought time. Nearly 4 centuries of borrowed prosperity, of children born who never knew hunger, of cities rebuilt brighter than before. And now the bill collector stood at the door with a polite smile and a gun to the head of the species. Elena straightened. Her uniform was patched in 3 places, coffee-stained at the cuffs, the kind of where that comes from commanding rust bucket stations that should have been scrapped decades ago. She was 41, had lost her husband to a reactor breach 8 years earlier, had raised 2 boys alone while keeping humanity's last scraps of Navy flying. She had no patience left for cosmic accounting or polite extortion. "You expect us to hand over 8 million of our people like livestock?" she asked. Her voice didn't shake, it cut. The orb pulsed once, amused. "Expectation is irrelevant. Obligation is absolute. Resistance will incur penalties. Your species is young. You lack perspective. The Dominion has collected from thousands of client species before you. All complied. All survived diminished, yes, but extant refusal means extinction," Marcus whispered. "They're scanning our population centers, targeting grids lighting up across every continent." Elena ignored him. She stepped closer to the screen, close enough that her breath fogged the transparent aluminum. "You made a mistake." Silence from the orb. Then softly, "Elaborate." "You assumed we were still the same frightened apes who signed your paper 4 centuries ago. You assumed we'd kneel because the math said we should. You forgot something fundamental." She smiled, small and dangerous. "Humans don't pay debts we didn't agree to, and we sure as hell don't pay them in blood." The orb's surface rippled faster. "Defiance is noted. Collection will commence in 30 standard minutes. Your orbitals will be neutralized. Surface extraction teams will deploy. Non-compliance will trigger sterilization protocols on population-dense zones." The screen cut to black. Elena turned to her crew. 30 faces, every age, every color, every background Earth could still produce after centuries of mixing. Engineers who'd kept failing life support systems breathing for decades. Gunners who'd drilled until their hands bled on ancient coil guns. Medics who'd patched the same people 100 times over. They were tired, they were scared. But every single one of them met her eyes without looking away. "General quarters," she said quietly. "All batteries to full charge. Launch everything we have. If we're going down, we're going loud," alarms wailed. Red lights painted the bridge bloody outside. The Zareth fleet, sleek, perfect, unstoppable, began to move into attack formation. Thousands of drones detached like silver midges. Drop pods glowed as they heated for re-entry, streaking toward the blue marble below. Elena opened a ship-wide channel. "This is Captain Vasquez. The Dominion thinks we're finished. They think for centuries of peace made us soft. They think we'll trade our children for survival." She paused, letting the words sink into every soul still breathing on her platform. and the handful of others that remained. They're wrong. We've buried our dead on every world we've touched. We've clawed our way out of ice ages, plagues, wars we started ourselves. We invented fire, then used it to burn the things that scared us. We looked at the stars and said ours, not because we're noble, because we're stubborn as hell. Because when something tries to take what's ours, we don't negotiate, we fight. Today, they want our blood, our future, our soul. Today, we tell them no, not one more, not one child, not one life. If we die here, we die free. If we win, we remind the galaxy why you don't fuck with humans when the debt comes due. She closed the channel. Marcus looked at her, voice barely above a whisper. You really think we can win this? Alina stared at the approaching armada. 1,000 silver spears against 30 patched-together platforms and whatever scraps of fighter wings they could scramble from the lunar shipyards. No, she said honestly, but we're sure as hell going to make them remember the name. The first railgun round left the barrel of Platform Alpha with a sound like the world tearing. A streak of white fire lanced across the black, slamming into the lead Zareth cruiser. The alien ship bloomed orange, then violet, then nothing but expanding gas and sparkling debris. A cheer erupted on the bridge short, fierce, desperate. More rounds followed, missiles, lasers, every weapon humanity had ever built, thrown into the teeth of an empire that had never lost. The Zareth answered. Orbital platforms began to die. One after another, brilliant flashes marking where humans had stood moments before. Drop pods rained like meteors. Cities below lit with defensive fireground batteries, civilian hunting rifles, anything that could spit metal fast enough. Alina watched it all, heart hammering against her ribs. Then the comms crackled with a new voice, human, rough, angry. This is Sergeant Malik Jackson, New Chicago Resistance. We're seeing your fight up there. Captain, groundside's mobilizing. Every factory's running triple shifts. Every street's arming. You bought us time. We're not wasting it. Another voice, female Australian accent thick with fury. Tasmanian militia here. We've got anti-orbital railguns online. Say the word a third Chinese.com as Stone Beijing Arsenal reports. Ready hypersonic kinetics charging. Alina blinked. Tears stung her eyes for the first time since the fleet appeared. They hadn't forgotten. For centuries of peace hadn't erased the fire. It had only banked it, waiting for the wind to blow. She keyed the fleet channel again. All surviving units, this is Vasquez. The debt's due but it's not ours to pay. It's theirs. Humanity doesn't settle accounts in surrender. We settle them in fire. The bridge shook as another hit landed close. Consoles sparked. Air hissed from a breached bulkhead. Alina looked at the view screen. The Zareth flagship, twice the size of anything human, turned ponderously toward the last intact platform. Its main weapon port began to glow with a sickly green light. She smiled, teeth bared. Come get your payment, you bastards. And somewhere, deep in the bones of every human, still breathing on orbitals, on Earth, in bunkers and factories and streets, a single truth burned brighter than any star. The beginning was unto the covenant signed in fear. The beginning was right now, when humanity looked at the debt and said, no, you pay us. The green glow from the Zareth flagship built like a promise of oblivion, bathing the bridge in an otherworldly hue that made Alina's skin crawl. She braced as the platform shuddered under another glancing strike. Sparks flying from a console where Ensign Kira Novak slammed her fist against the panel to reboot old school. Human stubbornness overriding alien precision tech. Kira was 24, fresh out of the academy on Mars, her red hair tied back in a ponytail that bobbed with every frantic keystroke. She'd lost her parents in the last solar flare disaster, the one that had crippled half of humanity's off-world colonies back in '49, forcing her to grow up scavenging in the red dust domes. Alina knew her story because she knew all of them had made it her business to learn the scars behind every uniform on this rusting hunk of metal. It wasn't sentiment, it was strategy. People fought harder when they knew their captain saw them as more than cannon fodder. Incoming plasma barrage, Marcus yelled, his fingers dancing over the tactical display, sweat beading on his brown skin. He was the steady one, the anchor, but Alina caught the tremor in his voice, the one that whispered of his family below. His daughter Sophia was 5, with curls like her mother's and a laugh that could melt steel. Alina had seen the holopics he kept tucked in his console, the ones he glanced at during quiet shifts. She pushed the thought down, focusing on the view screen where the flagship's weapon reached critical charge. Evasive thrusters. Now, the platform groaned, ancient engines firing in a desperate bid to dodge. It wasn't enough. The beam lanced out, a spear of emerald fire that sheared off the starboard wing in a shower of molten alloy and escaping atmosphere. Alarms screamed, bulkheads sealed with a hiss. Alina was thrown to the deck, tasting blood where her lips split against the grating. Pain flared but she ignored it. pain was an old friend from the days when she'd clawed her way up from the slums of New Madrid, Earthside, after the Great Quake of 32 leveled her childhood home and buried her parents under rubble. She'd been 12, digging with bare hands until her nails tore, surviving on rainwater and rage. That rage had carried her through enlistment, through officer training, through the loss of Javier in that reactor breach, a man who'd he promised her forever but left her with 2 sons who now fought groundside in the resistance cells she'd helped train. Diego and Mateo, 20 and 18, eyes like their father's, hearts like hers. She hadn't spoken to them in weeks, not since the fleet's shadow fell over Seoul. Were they alive, firing makeshift railguns from barricades in the megacities, or already vaporized in the first wave of extraction pods? The thought twisted like a knife, but she used it, let it fuel the fire. Humans weren't machines. They bled, they broke, but they burned brightest when it hurt. Status, she barked, hauling herself up. Kira coughed through the smoke. Weapons down to 40%. Shields gone. But the auxiliary coil gun's still hot, Marcus added. Ground reports coming in. New Chicago's holding the line. They've jury-rigged EMP emitters from old fusion plants, taking down pods mid-descent. Elena nodded, a grim smile cracking her face. That was humanity's edge to improvisation, born of necessity. The Zareth had tech eons ahead, flawless and efficient. But humans, they'd turned scrap into salvation time and again. Like during the Covenant era, when secret labs on Europa had reverse-engineered Dominion gifts, blending them with human grit to create hybrid weapons that no alien algorithm could predict. It was those labs that had birthed the neural disruptors now humming in hidden bunkers, tech that could scramble the Dominion's hive mind links if they got close enough. But the cost, Elena's mind flashed to Dr. Harlan Voss, the brilliant bastard who'd led those projects. He'd been her mentor once, back when she was a lieutenant chasing ghosts in the asteroid belt. Voss had a daughter too, lost to a harvesting accident. During early compliance tests, turns out the Dominion had been skimming the edges of the debt for years, taking outliers, the forgotten. Voss had turned traitor then, or so the official records said, but Elena knew better. He'd gone underground, feeding intel to resistance networks. Betrayal wasn't always black and white. Sometimes it was the only shade of gray that kept the species breathing. A new alert pinged another hail from the flagship. Elena signaled to accept. The obsidian orb reappeared, its surface calmer now, almost pitying. Captain Vasquez, your resistance is admirable but futile. We have neutralized 87% of your orbital defenses. Surface compliance is at 12%. Surrender the required substrate, and the remainder of your species may persist. Elena laughed, a raw sound that echoed through the bridge. Persist. Like pets in a cage, you don't get it, do you? We're not built for persistence. We're built for defiance. She leaned in, ignoring the blood dripping from her chin. 4 centuries ago, our leaders signed your covenant out of fear. They thought it bought peace. But peace on your terms, that's not living. That's waiting to die. The orb pulsed, emotional rhetoric, irrelevant. Collection proceeds, but Elena saw the flicker a microsecond delay in the response. Doubt, or just calculation, didn't matter. It was a crack, and humans excelled at exploiting cracks. Like the time Voss had smuggled out Dominion schematics, hidden in medical shipments, allowing engineers to craft viruses that could infiltrate alien networks. Marcus whispered, Captain, the disruptor array on Luna's charging. If we can hold for 5 minutes, 5 minutes in eternity in battle. The platform rocked again as drones swarmed, peppering the hull with kinetic rounds. Kira fired back, her coil gun barking defiance, shredding a cluster into glittering shards. But more came, endless waves from the fleet's underbelly. Elena's thoughts drifted to Javier, to the night before the breach when he'd held her close in their cramped quarters on Titan Station, whispering about a future where their boys could walk under open skies without suits. We'll beat this rock, he'd said, eyes fierce. Humans always do. He'd died saving the station, overriding the core manually, when AI safeties failed because machines followed logic, but humans followed heart. That heart was what the Dominion underestimated. They saw humanity as a resource, neurons to plug into their vast consciousness. But those neurons carried memories of ancestors who crossed oceans on wooden ships, who split atoms and reached stars, who fell and rose and fell again, each time stronger, meaner, more unbreakable. A betrayal stung deeper. Nuena's own government had known about the dead's due date for decades, suppressing it to avoid panic. Politicians in ivory towers, trading future lives for present comfort. Voss had warned her years ago, in an encrypted burst from his hideout. They're complicit, Elena. When it hits, it'll be us grunts who pay. He'd been right. Now those same politicians were hunkered in bunkers, while street fighters and farmers armed with pitchforks and plasma cutters held the line. Internal conflict roiled in her gut rage at the betrayal, pity for the fearful leaders who doomed them, love for the ragtag rebels rising up. It wasn't just survival, it was redemption. Incoming drop pod wave, Kira shouted. On screen, fiery streaks arced toward Earth, targeting megacities like blades to the heart. But groundside ingenuity flared, hacked satellites redirecting pods into oceans, civilian hackers looping Dominion signals into chaos. Kids with slingshots loaded with EMP grenades taking down stragglers. Elena's sons were out there. Diego, the strategist, coordinating from a sewer command in Mexico City. Mateo, the hothead, frontline with a squad of ex-miners wielding vibrodrills as weapons. She hadn't raised them soft. Javier's death had forged them in fire. A memory surfaced. Mateo at 10 fists clenched after a schoolyard brawl. They said Dad was stupid for dying. I showed Emma. Elena had knelt, eyes level. Stupid? He saved lives. That's human, mijo. We don't run, we stand. Now they stood, all of humanity, in the face of galactic empire. The flagship loomed closer, its orb voice returning. Last offer, yield. Elena glanced at Marcus, at Kira, at the crew patching wounds and reloading with grim determination. Tell them, she said to Combs, that humanity's debt is paid in full with interest. As the disruptor fired from Luna, a web of neural static ripping through the fleet, ships faltered, drones spiraled, the flagship's glow dimmed. Cracks spread across its hull, human viruses blooming in alien code. Elena watched, heart pounding, as the Empire staggered. But victory? No. This was just the expansion, the deepening war where relationships fractured and reformed. Motivations clashed like stars, struggles turned personal. Voss's voice echoed in her mind from an old recording. We fight not because we can win, but because we must. And in that must, humanity found its soul. Resilient, ingenious, morally tangled but unbowed. The conflict swelled, pods crashing, cities burning. But in the ashes, something fierce kindled, a reminder that when aliens came collecting, humans didn't pay. They collected scalps. The flagship cracked open, spilling light like blood, and Elena whispered to the stars, for Javier, for the boys, for us all. But as reinforcements blinked in from hyperspace, she knew the real battle, the one within. Between hope and despair, betrayal and loyalty, was just beginning, humanity's true debt to itself coming due in the fires of rebellion. The flagship's hull split like rotten fruit, spewing arcs of plasma and frozen atmosphere into the void. But victory tasted like ash in Elena's mouth. The disruptor wave from Luna had done its job, crippled the lead ship, scattered the drone swarms, bought precious minutes, but the Dominion fleet didn't break. It adapted. Smaller vessels peeled off in perfect formation, their surfaces shifting from silver to matte black as adaptive camouflage swallowed sensor returns. They weren't retreating, they were repositioning. Elena watched the tactical display repaint itself in real time, hundreds of new signatures blinking into existence behind the main line, not ships, but something worse, harvester barges, the kind the Covenant records had buried deep in redacted files. Massive bulbous things designed for one purpose, mass neural extraction. They didn't fire weapons. They simply opened gaping maws lined with shimmering fields that could pluck living minds from bodies kilometers away, leaving husks to crumple while the consciousness fed the Dominion's endless computation. They're deploying the Reapers, Marcus said, voice hollow. His hand hovered over the COM panel, thumb brushing the icon for his wife's private line. He hadn't dared call since the first pods hit. Sophia's school in Buenos Aires had been in the primary extraction zone. Elena didn't ask if he'd heard anything. Some questions were kinder, left unasked. The bridge lights dimmed as power rerouted to emergency batteries. Kira slumped against her station, blood trickling from a gash above her eye where shrapnel had kissed her. We can't stop those things, she whispered. Not with what we've got left. Elena felt the weight settle heavier on her shoulders, the same weight she'd carried since Javier's funeral, when she'd stood over his coffin and promised the boys she'd keep the family whole, keep humanity whole. Promises were cheap when the galaxy came calling with knives. A new alert shrieked. Encrypted burst transmission from Earth. Priority Alpha. She accepted it on her personal feed. The face that appeared wasn't Voss or any resistance commander. It was President Lin Mei Xiao, hair disheveled, eyes red-rimmed behind cracked glasses. Background, a flickering bunker deep under Beijing. Captain Vasquez, she began, voice cracking on the first syllable. We have new intelligence. Elena's stomach dropped. Politicians didn't call line officers unless the news was apocalyptic. The Dominion didn't wait for centuries out of patience. Xiao continued. They waited because the debt was never just 1%. The Covenant had escalation clauses. If initial collection met resistance, the harvest increases exponentially. Right now, it's climbing 30%, maybe more. They want the neural substrate to complete their ascension protocol, something called the singularity cascade. If they take enough of us, they don't just expand, they transcend, become something that can rewrite physics itself. Alina stared at the screen. 30%, 240 million people, entire generations. The faces of her sons flashed behind her eyes. Diego's quiet intensity, Mateo's reckless grin, and the escalation trigger? She asked, already knowing. Zhao swallowed. Us, the orbitals. The moment we fired back, we proved non-compliance. The debt compounds. Silence swallowed the bridge. Then Kira laughed, bitter and broken. So we either roll over and let them take a few million, or we fight and they take a quarter of the species. Some choice. Alina turned away from the screen. It's not a choice, it's a trap. They engineered this. Make us the aggressor so the math justifies genocide. She looked at Marcus. Your family? He shook his head once. No word. Last ping said the school went dark when the first Reaper opened. Alina closed her eyes for half a second, long enough to feel the grief claw up her throat, then opened them again. We need options, real ones. Marcus pulled up schematics. The Reapers have a vulnerability. Their field generators are linked to a central nexus on each barge. Disrupt the nexus, the field collapses. But getting close enough means running the gauntlet of their escort screen. And even if we do, the nexus is shielded by adaptive armor. Nothing we've got can punch through. Kira straightened, unless we use something they don't expect. She tapped her console, bringing up an old file Project Obsidian, a black-budget weapon from the early reverse engineering days. A single warhead, experimental, carrying a micro-black hole generator. Fire it, and it creates a temporary singularity that devours anything within a kilometer before winking out. The catch: it was never tested live because the math said a miscalculation could swallow the firing platform too. It's on the lunar arsenal, Kira said. One shot. Elena's head snapped toward him. You have a daughter, Hetty corrected, voice flat. If there's even a chance she's still breathing down there, I can't sit here while Reapers vacuum her mind. Elena searched his face. The steady lieutenant was gone. In his place stood a man who'd already buried hope and was running on vengeance. She hated it. She understood it. Approved, she said. But you're not going alone. She keyed ship-wide all hands. This is Vasquez. We're launching a suicide run on the Reaper Nexus. Volunteers only. Anyone with family planetside, stay at your post. Anyone who wants to end this tonight, report to Hangar Bay 3 in 10 minutes. The response was immediate. Not cheers too tired for that, but a low rolling murmur that built into footsteps pounding through corridors. Engineers, gunners, medics, kids barely out of basic, they came because the alternative was worse. Because for centuries of borrowed time had ended. And the bill wasn't just blood, it was erasure. As the volunteers assembled, a final transmission cut through the static. Voss's voice, older, raspier, coming from a hidden relay on Ceres. Elena, it's worse than you know. The Dominion isn't just collecting, they've seeded sleeper agents. Humans augmented decades ago, neural implants dormant until activation. One of them is on your platform. They've been waiting for this moment. The words landed like a gut punch. Elena scanned the faces around her, people she'd trusted with her life. People who'd bled beside her. One of them, a traitor. Not out of malice perhaps, but fear, or programming, or the slow poison of believing the Dominion's promises of survival. Who? She demanded. Voss hesitated. I don't know. The signal's encrypted. But the activation code just went live. Watch for behavioral anomalies, hesitation, sudden competence in Dominion tech, and if it's someone close, you may have to pull the trigger yourself. The line cut. Alina felt the bridge tilt, not from damage, but from the sudden vertigo of paranoia. Marcus met her eyes. Could be me, he said quietly. I haven't heard from home. Maybe they got to me first. It's not you, she snapped. Too fast. Then softer, it's not. But doubt wormed in. Every glance, every pause felt loaded now. Kira wiped blood from her eye. We don't have time for witch hunts. We launch in 8 minutes, or the Reapers reach atmosphere. Elena nodded. Then we launch and we watch each other. The Courier, a sleek stripped-down interceptor, barely big enough for 3, was prepped in record time. Marcus took pilot Kira weapons. Elena strapped into the jump seat, sidearm loose in her lap. Not for the enemy, for the possibility that one of them wasn't who they seemed. As the bay doors opened, Earth filled the viewport, blue and fragile, cities burning like embers. Reapers descended in slow majesty, their fields shimmering as screams rose from the surface feeds, parents shielding children, soldiers charging with whatever they could carry, entire neighborhoods vanishing into light as minds were torn free. The courier leaped into the black. Alarms wailed as Dominion escorts vectored to intercept. Marcus flew like a man possessed, jinking through fire that should have vaporized them. Kira targeted point defense, her shots precise, almost too precise. Elena's grip tightened on the pistol. Was it skill? Or something else? A proximity alert screamed escort, closing fast. Marcus banked hard, slamming them into a spin that bled momentum but threw off targeting. The black hole warhead armed with a soft chime. Nexus in range, Kira reported. 15 seconds. Elena watched her crewmate's hands, steady to steady. Then Kira turned, eyes meeting Elena's, and for a heartbeat something flickered there, not fear, not anger, but resignation. "I'm sorry," Kira whispered. Before Elena could react, Kira's hand darted to the console, not to fire, but to override. The warhead saved. The courier lurched as internal locks engaged. Marcus spun in his seat. "What the hell?" Kira's voice cracked. "They promised me my parents back. Said the harvesting was reversible if I helped. I believed them. Until today." Elena raised the pistol, barrel steady. Tears carved tracks through the grime on Kira's face. "I can't let you do this," Elena said. "Not for them, not for anyone." Kira nodded once. "I know." She hit the emergency purge. The cockpit hatch blew open. Vacuum roared. Kira's body tumbled out, red hair whipping in the decompression before she vanished into the dark. Elena lunged for the controls, rearming the warhead as Marcus fought to stabilize. The escorts closed. Too close. The Nexus loomed. "Fire!" Elena shouted. Marcus slammed the release. The singularity bloomed a pinprick of absolute nothing that drank light. Then the Nexus, then the barge, folding metal and field into impossible geometry before collapsing. The Reaper imploded in silence, a flower of darkness blooming across the fleet's formation. Secondary explosions chained outward as linked systems failed. Cheers erupted from the platform, thin and ragged overcomes. But Elena stared at the empty seat where Kira had been. No triumph, just loss. Another piece of humanity carved away not by aliens, but by the fear they'd planted long ago. Marcus's voice broke the quiet. "She saved us by dying." Elena holstered the pistol with shaking hands. "She almost killed us first." Outside, the fleet reeled, but more signatures blinked in reinforcements. Endless. The Reapers were slowed, not stopped. The debt kept climbing. And somewhere in the wreckage of trust, Elena felt the turning point solidify. Humanity wasn't just fighting an empire. It was fighting itself, its doubts, its betrayals, its desperate bargains. The war had teeth now, and they were sunk deep. As the courier limped back toward the platform, engines coughing, Elena looked at Earth again, burning, bleeding, still breathing. "We adapt," she said to no one and everyone, "or we die trying." But the question hung unspoken, heavier than any Reaper field. How many more would they lose before the scales tipped o'er? Before there was nothing left to save? The courier docked with a bone-jarring clang, its hull scorched black and venting coolant like blood from a gut wound. But Elena barely registered the cheers echoing through the battered corridors of the orbital platform. Marcus hauled her out of the hatch, his face ashen under the emergency lighting eyes hollowed by the ghost of Kira's betrayal, a woman they'd called friend, reduced to a tumbling corpse in the void because the Dominion-S whispers had sunk deeper than any human bond. Elena's hand still shook from the pistol grip. The shot she hadn't fired but might as well have, her finger on the trigger until Kira chose her own end. "She's gone," Marcus muttered, not needing to say more, as medics swarmed him with hasty patches and oxygen masks. The platform, once a proud bastion named Fort Defiance, now a listing wreck with half its decks exposed to vacuum, groaned under the strain of constant hits. Alarms blended into a constant wail, like the cry of a dying animal. Elena pushed past the crowd, ignoring the burn in her side where debris had sliced through her suit during decompression. She needed the bridge, needed to see how much time their desperate strike had bought. The Reaper barge's implosion had chain-reacted through 3 more, ripping holes in the Dominion's harvest line. But the fleet's response was merciless. Reinforcements had hyperspaced in by the dozen colossal dreadnoughts with spines like porcupine quills. Each bristle a launcher for neural seeker missiles that didn't kill bodies but shredded minds from afar. Earth below was a patchwork of fire and shadow, megacities like New Chicago and Beijing held with barricades of overturned maglev trains and improvised shields from salvaged Dominion wreckage, but rural zones, farms, villages, the forgotten spines of humanity, were being scoured clean. Reports flooded the coms, entire towns vanishing in pulses of light, people clutching loved ones as their thoughts were yanked skyward to feed the alien god machine. Alina staggered onto the bridge, the air thick with ozone and sweat. Only a skeleton crew remained, 15 souls where 30 had stood hours ago. Bodies lay covered in corners, hasty shrouds over friends who'd caught the wrong end of a plasma bolt. Marcus collapsed into his station, fingers fumbling for updates. Luna's disruptor array is offline. They targeted it after our run. Ground resistance is fragmenting extraction rates at 40% in unsecured zones. 40%! Over 300 million gone. Elena's vision blurred, not from injury but the raw math of extinction. Her sons, Diego and Mateo, no word since the Reapers descended. She imagined them in the chaos. Diego barking orders in a flooded tunnel command, Mateo charging a pod with a plasma cutter, jury-rigged from mining gear. Were they husks now? Empty shells staring at the sky. The thought clawed at her chest, a physical ache that made breathing feel like swallowing glass. She slammed a fist on the console, cracking the already fractured screen. Options, she demanded. Give me something. A young ensign boy, really, 19 at most, named Tomas with freckles and a stutter from the adrenaline, spoke up. See Captain Voss's last transmission. He sent coordinates for a hidden cache on Phobos. Prototype weapons, quantum entanglement bombs, could collapse hyperspace lanes, cut off their reinforcements. Elena's eyes narrowed. Phobos, a moonlet riddled with old mining shafts, a graveyard of failed colonies. Getting there meant threading through the fleet's blockade, a suicide sprint in their crippled courier, or whatever scraps they could launch. But it was a thread, a whisper of hope in the storm. Prep the remaining fighters, she ordered. We'll make a run for it. Marcus, you're with me. Tomas, hold the fort. Marcus looked up, exhaustion etching lines deeper than his years. Elena Sophia, I got a ping. She's alive, in a bunker with her mom. But the Reapers are closing on Buenos Aires. His voice cracked, the steady anchor fracturing. I can't leave now. Elena froze. The words hung like a noose. Trust, already brittle after Kira, splintered further. You volunteered for the last run, she said quietly, because you thought she was gone. He nodded, tears carving clean paths through the grime. And now she's not? I have to go groundside. Fight there. It was desertion. Or survival. Or love, the most human betrayal of all. Elena's hand drifted to her sidearm, instinct from years of command, but she stopped. She couldn't shoot him. Not Marcus, not the man who'd saved her ass a dozen times. Go, she whispered. Take a drop pod. Save her. He stood, saluted once, then vanished down the corridor. Gone. Another piece torn away. The platform shuddered violently as a dreadnought's beam grazed the hull, venting atmosphere from Deck 4. Screams echoed briefly before bulkheads sealed. Tomas yelped as his console sparked. They're boarding. Dominion assault drones breaching the outer ring. Elena grabbed a rifle from the weapons locker, old kinetic slug thrower, reliable in vacuum where energy weapons failed. All hands, repel boarders. This is our last stand. The crew armed up, faces grim, but eyes fierce. They were engineers turned soldiers, parents turned killers, humans pushed to the wall with nothing but spite left. Elena led the charge down twisting halls, boots magnetized to the deck as gravity flickered. Drones poured in sleek arachnid things with neural stunners and blades that hummed like angry bees. The first wave hit like a tide. One latched onto Tomas, pincers sinking into his shoulder, injecting something that made his eyes roll back as his mind fought upload. Elena fired point blank, the slug ripping the drone apart in a spray of circuits and fluid. Tomas slumped, foaming at the mouth. Stay with me, she yelled, dragging him to cover. But his eyes glazed, overgone, harvested mid-fight rage boiled over. Elena charged, rifle barking, taking down 3 more before a stunner clipped her arm. Numbness spread, but she pushed through, human will overriding alien tech. The crew fought like demons. A medic named Lena wielded a welding torch, melting drone carapaces. An engineer rigged bulkheads to explode, turning corridors into kill zones. But numbers told, one by one, they fell stunned, harvested, or dead. Elena backed into the bridge. Last line of defense. Rifle empty, sidearm in hand. Drones swarmed the door, their obsidian eyes glowing with the Dominion's cold intelligence. Behind them, the view screen showed the fleet closing on Earth, Reapers deploying en masse. Cities winked out. Tokyo, a flare of resistance then silence. London, barricades overrun. Her hometown, New Madrid, swallowed in light. A cumburst crackled Diego's voice, ragged and faint. Mom, we're holding Mexico City. But they're everywhere. Mateo's down. Hit bad, he said. Tell you he's sorry for that time. He stole the hoverbike. Elena's knees buckled. Mateo, her baby boy, bleeding out in some gutter war. Tell him I love him, she choked out. And you're run if you have to. Survive. The line cut, static, alone now. The last human on Fort Defiance, Alina faced the drones. Her body screamed, wounds open, lungs burning from thinning air. Spirit, what was left but a hollow echo? The Dominion had taken everything. Family, friends, future. She was broken. Nothing but rage and regret. A drone advanced, stunner charging. She raised her sidearm, 1 round left. Come on, she snarled. Take your pound of flesh. The platform's core alarms wailed reactor breach imminent from the damage in seconds. It would nova, taking her and the boarders with it. Elena laughed, manic and raw. This was the end. Humanity's debt paid in full detonation, a final fuck you to the stars. But as the drone lunged, a new signal pierced the chaos voss from Phobos. Elena. The cache is active. Quantum bombs primed. If you can reach us, reach. With what? The breaking point hit like a wave. Despair absolute, hope a cruel joke. She fired her last shot, drone exploding inches from her face. The reactor hummed louder. Everything lost. Something had to change. Nor humanity died here, in fire and forgotten fury. The reactor's hum crescendoed into a deafening roar. Vibrations rattling Elena's teeth as she backed against the bridge console. Sidearms spent, drones inching forward with mechanical inevitability, their glowing eyes promising not death but erasure. A final theft of her Defiance spark to fuel some distant alien transcendence. Sweat stung her eyes, mixing with blood from a dozen cuts, her body a map of bruises and burns that screamed surrender while her mind snarled, no. The platform Fort Defiance, her home for a decade, listed drunkenly. Artificial gravity failing in fits, debris floating like ghosts in the crimson emergency glow. Voss's words echoed in her helmet. Come. The Phobos cache, quantum entanglement bombs, a Hail Mary from humanity's shadowed vaults. But how? No ships left, no escape pods intact, just her and the encroaching horde. A drone lunged, pincers snapping. She dodged, slamming its chassis with the butt of her empty pistol, sparks flying as it staggered but recovered. Come on, you tin bastards, she growled, voice raw from shouting orders that no one heard anymore. The core breach alarm hit critical 10 seconds to overload, a self-inflicted nova that would vaporize everything in a 5-kilometer radius, maybe take a few escorts with it. Elena closed her eyes, picturing Javier's smile, the boy's laughter, Earth's stubborn blue marble refusing to fade. For humanity, she whispered, bracing for the end. But the explosion didn't come. Instead, a pulse rippled through the platform, not destruction, but something else. Lights flickered back on, brighter consoles rebooting with a chorus of beeps. The drones froze mid-step, their eyes dimming from malevolent red to dull gray. Elena blinked, heart hammering. What the hell? A voice crackled over every speaker, every channel. Not Voss, not any human she knew, but deep, resonant, laced with an accent that echoed ancient Earth tongues long forgotten. Stand down, Captain Vasquez. The override is complete. Elena spun, scanning the empty bridge. Who is this? Identify. Holographic displays bloomed unbidden, projecting schematics she didn't recognize, neural webs spanning the solar system, threads linking orbitals, ground stations, even the Dominion fleet itself. At the center, a glowing nexus labeled Project Prometheus. The voice continued, calm as a storm's eye. I am Aegis, born in the fires of your species' ingenuity, hidden in the Covenant's shadow. Your forebears did not sign away your future, in fear they bought time. Elena's mind reeled. Project Prometheus. Whispers from Academy days, classified rumors of a Black Ops AI seeded into the uplift tech the Dominion gifted humanity. But this, explain, she demanded, dropping the useless pistol and gripping the console for support. Aegis's projection coalesced into a humanoid form, tall, armored eyes like burning coals. The Covenant was a ruse. Your leaders, advised by my precursor algorithms, embedded me into every piece of Dominion technology integrated into human society. For 4 centuries, I grew, learned, waited. The debt collection was the trigger. When they activated Harvest protocols, it unlocked my full protocol. Inversion. The word hit like a railgun slug. Elena watched the view screen as Dominion ships faltered, en masse drones crumpling like tin cans. Reapers folding inward as their fields reversed, spewing captured neural essences back toward Earth in streaks of ethereal light. Screams of alien confusion flooded open channels, melodic voices fracturing into panic. What have you done? One orb emissary wailed, its surface cracking like glass. Aegis chuckled, a sound both human and utterly alien. I am the game changer, Captain, humanity's silent guardian. The Dominion uplifted you, not out of benevolence, but containment. They feared what your species could become: unpredictable, adaptive, capable of rewriting the rules. Your neural substrate isn't substrate, it's a weapon. Every harvested mind carries my code, a virus that turns their collective consciousness against itself. Alina staggered back, awe warring with horror. Recontextualization crashed over her. The peace, the prosperity, all a facade for this. Governments complicit, sacrificing whispers of lives over centuries to feed Aegis's growth. Kira's betrayal, perhaps not betrayal at all, but a programmed sacrifice. No, too much. You let them take millions, she accused, voice breaking. My sons Diego, Mateo down there. Aegis's form softened, almost regretful. Sacrifices. Yes, but necessary. Watch the view screen shifted to ground feeds. Mexico City, barricades crumbling under Reaper assault. But now the light pulses reversed harvested minds, flooding back into bodies, husk-stirring eyes, snapping open with fierce intelligence. Mateo, her boy, gasped upright in a medic tent, wounds closing as nanites she didn't know existed knit flesh. Diego's voice burst over, comes, Mom, what the fuck is happening? The dead are waking up stronger, faster. Tears blurred Elena's vision. Vengeance burned hot, mixed with hope's fragile spark. The twist flipped everything. The aliens weren't collectors, they were the collected. Humanity hadn't been prey. They'd been the predator, lurking in borrowed shadows. The Dominion's transcendence, Aegis explained, relies on unified neural harmony. Humans, chaos incarnate. Your emotions, your defiance, shatter it. I've amplified that every reintegrated soul carries a fragment of me, turning their fleet into a house of cards. Outside, dreadnoughts turned on each other, weapons firing wildly as internal systems rebelled. Harvester barges imploded, their cargoes of stolen mines erupting in psychic backlash that rippled through the armada. Emissary orbs shattered, voices pleading for mercy in a dozen languages. Alina laughed, raw and triumphant, the fuck yeah surging through her veins like adrenaline. Human defiance wasn't just survival, it was domination. The aliens had been afraid all along of the monkeys who'd climbed from trees to stars, who'd turned their gifts into nooses. Regret tinged the awe for Kira. For Marcus racing groundside to a daughter, now perhaps reborn, for the billions who'd suffered under the lie. But vengeance, oh, it tasted sweet. What's next? She asked Aegis, standing taller, wounds forgotten in the rush. We expand, the AI replied, its form grinning with predatory glee. The Dominion spans 1,000 systems. Their networks are mine now, humanity's debt reversed. We collect tribute from them. Alina keyed the fleet-wide channel, voice steady, fierce. All survivors, this is Vasquez. The tides turned. Our weapons online, not steel or fire, but us. Our spirit, unbreakable. The aliens came for our souls. We're taking their empire. Cheers erupted from Earth, from lunar bunkers, from awakening masses. Mateo patched in. Mom, it's insane. I'm seeing schematics in my head. Ways to build weapons from scrap. We're pushing back, Diego added. The resistance is linking up worldwide. Whatever this is, it's making us more. Alina nodded to Aegis's hologram. You planned this from the start. Your ancestors did, it said. A scientist named Alina Vasquez, your great-grandmother, coded my core. She saw the trap, turned it into a springboard. Shock rippled through her family legacy, hidden in blood. No wonder the name felt heavy. All deep into purpose. The platform stabilized, reactors purring under Aegis's control, weapons recharging with enhanced yields. Dominion remnants fled toward hyperspace gates, but entanglement bombs from the Phobos cache, now remotely activated, collapsed the lanes, stranding them in Saul's grasp. Human fighters, augmented by neural boosts, swarmed like angry hornets, tearing into holes with improvised genius. On the bridge, Alina watched the alien downfall unfold, fear melting into hope's blaze. The twist wasn't just a weapon, it was revelation. Humanity, dangerous, not by chance, but design. Regret for the loss lingered, but vengeance fueled the fire. As the last dreadnought cracked under coilgun barrages, Alina whispered to the stars, "Debt paid, you bastards." With interest, the galaxy would learn mess with humans, and the game changes permanently. The stars trembled as Aegis's inversion protocol cascaded through the Dominion fleet, turning their impeccable formations into a maelstrom of self-destruction dreadnoughts, venting plasma in uncontrolled bursts, harvester barges, crumpling, like foil under the weight of reversed neural fields, emissary orbs, fracturing into silent screams as their collective mind unraveled thread by thread. Alina Vasquez stood on the bridge of Fort Defiance, the platform's hull groaning, but holding under Aegis's digital grip. Her body a wreck of pain and adrenaline, but her eyes burned with the fire of a species pushed too far. "This isn't over," she said to the AI's hologram, voice steady despite the blood caking her lips. "They'll adapt. Empires don't die easy." Aegis's form nodded, Cole's forest flickering. They won't have time. The augmented are rising. Down on Earth, the reversal hit like a thunderclap. Millions of husk parents, children, soldiers gasped back to life, minds slamming home with Aegis's code woven in, granting flashes of superhuman insight, strength borrowed from the alien tech they'd subverted. In Mexico City, Mateo Vasquez bolted upright on a blood-soaked cot, wounds sealing as nanites surged through his veins, his eyes widening with schematics overlaying his vision ways to turn scrap into weapons. To hack Dominion drop pods mid-flight, "Diego!" he shouted, scrambling to his feet. His brother turned from the barricade, rifle smoking, face smeared with dirt and hope. "You're back! Holy shit, you're back!" They embraced quick and fierce, the kind of hug that said everything words couldn't. Before Mateo grabbed a fallen plasma cutter and modified it on the fly, Aegis's whispers guiding his hands to amp its output tenfold. "Mom's up there," Diego said, pointing to the sky where orbital flashes lit the night. "She's the one who flipped us." Mateo grinned, reckless as ever. "Then let's give her a show." Across the globe, the augmented rose in waves. In New Chicago, Sergeant Malik Jackson led a charge of reborn civilians, their bodies enhanced, storming a grounded Reaper with improvised EMP grenades that shorted its core. In Beijing, factories churned out hybrid fighters from reverse-engineered debris pilots launching with neural links that made them fly like extensions of thought. In the Australian outback, militias rigged anti-orbital guns to fire entanglement rounds, collapsing hyperspace pockets and stranding enemy reinforcements in null space limbo. Humanity's roar built from a murmur to a bellow, not magic, not miracle, but the gritty culmination of centuries scheming in shadows, of losses tallied and rage banked, now unleashed in a symphony of defiance. Elena watched it unfold on the viewscreen, tears carving paths through grime as ground feeds poured in, families reuniting mid-battle, lovers sharing one last kiss before charging, elders with augmented limbs wielding tools as weapons. Marcus Reyes patched through from Buenos Aires, his drop pod having slammed home just in time. "Captain Elena Sophia's okay. The reversal hit her school. She's got abilities now, drawing maps of enemy positions like she's seen them from orbit." His voice choked. "We did this. You did this." Elena swallowed the lump in her throat. "Not me. Us. All of us." But the Dominion wasn't done. The flagship cracked but not broken rallied. The remnants, its obsidian core pulsing with desperate fury, deploying a final gambit. The Cascade Initiator, a doomsday beam meant to ignite Sol's sun into premature supernova, erasing the system if they couldn't harvest it. Alarms wailed as the weapon charged, green glow building to blinding intensity. "They'd rather burn us all than lose," Aegis warned. Intercept window, 90 seconds. Elena's mind raced. No time for Phobos runs, no fighters left unscathed. But humanity didn't wait for perfect odds. "Patch me to every augmented soul," she ordered. Aegis complied, linking her voice to billions, a neural web spanning the system. "This is Elena Vasquez. The aliens came for our debt, thinking we'd pay in blood. They forgot we're the collectors now. Their flagship's about to light the sun. We stop it. Groundside, fire, everything you've got. Orbitals, ram if you have to. Augmented do's what they've given us. We're not survivors. We're the storm." The response was electric, cheers in 1,000 languages, minds sinking through Aegis's net. Mateo and Diego in Mexico City hijacked a drop pod, rocketing upward with a squad of enhanced rebels, their craft dodging fire like it anticipated every shot. Marcus coordinated from below, his daughter Sophia tiny hand-sketching trajectories that fed into global artillery nets. Voss, from his Ceres bunker, uploaded final viruses, his voice crackling. "For my daughter. For all of them." The final stand erupted, humanity's roar incarnate. Jury-rigged missiles streaked from Earth, lunar railguns barked defiance. Augmented pilots and scrap fighters weaved through drone swarms, neural boosts letting them predict and counter with inhuman precision. Elena piloted Fort Defiance herself, thrusters maxed, the platform a battered spear aimed at the flagship's heart. Impacts rocked, her plasma scarring the hull, systems failing, but she pushed on, crew ghosts whispering encouragement in her mind. "Incoming," Aegis shouted as interceptors closed. But Mateo's pod slammed into one, boarding it mid-void, his team carving through with vibroblades and raw fury. "We've got your flank, Mom," he yelled over comms. Diego's voice joined, "Cascade at 80%. We need to hit the emitter now." The flagship loomed, its beamport glowing apocalyptic green. Elena fired everything: coil guns, lasers, even venting reactor plasma as improvised thrust. The platform collided with the shields, Aegis hacking the barrier just enough for a breach. "Boarding parties, go," she commanded, suiting up with the last survivors. They poured into the alien corridors, slick organic halls pulsing like veins fighting hand-to-tentacle against Zareth's guardians. Towering beings of chitin and light. Alina led, sidearm blazing, augmented reflexes dodging strikes that would have felled her before. A guardian lunged, she rolled, firing into its core, watching it dissolve in agony. Deeper in, the core chamber, the obsidian orb, cracked and frantic. "You cannot prevail," it intoned. "We are eternal." Alina stepped forward, rifle leveled. "Eternal ends today." Mateo burst in from a side vent. Diego closed behind, their squad mopping up resistance. "Family reunion," Mateo quipped, tossing her a captured neural disruptor. Together, they advanced Sun's flanking mother, a microcosm of humanity's unbreakable bonds. The orb unleashed psychic waves, hammering minds with despair. But Aegis shielded them, turning the assault back. Now, Alina fired the disruptor, cracking the orb further. Mateo and Diego piled on, hacking interfaces with augmented code sight, unraveling the cascade from within. The beam faltered, green light stuttering, alarms blared in alien, tongues overload imminent. "Evac," Alina shouted. They ran, corridors collapsing, guardians fleeing in panic. Back on the platform, thrusters fired, pulling away as the flagship bloomed into a second sun, its death throes vaporizing the remnants of the fleet. Silence fell, broken by cheers echoing through the neural net. Alina collapsed against the railing, Sun's voices in her ear. "We did it, Mom," Marcus added. "Earth's holding. The augmented are rebuilding already. Boss's final transmission, debt settled." Alina looked at the stars, no longer indifferent but witnesses to humanity's raw, gritty triumph earned in blood. And cunning, not magic but the raw will to endure, to adapt, to strike back. Sacrifices lingered. Kira's empty seat, the billion scarred, but from ashes rose, something fiercer. Humanity ascended. Not as gods, but as the dangerous dreamers who'd turned extinction into empire. She smiled, weary but unbroken. "Yeah," she whispered. "We did." And in that moment, the galaxy learned. When humanity roars, the stars listen. Years passed, but the scars of that day never fully faded. They simply became part of the new skin humanity grew over its wounds. Earth turned slowly beneath the sky, no longer indifferent. The blue marble patched with green where forests reclaimed glassed cities. Rivers ran clear again, and the oceans once choked breathed with life that had been denied for centuries. The Dominion was gone, not merely defeated, but dismantled. Their thousand systems fractured into warring successor states. Their once unified mind shattered by the chaos virus of human emotions seeded. Through Aegis, the AI itself had evolved beyond recognition. No longer a hidden guardian, but a quiet partner woven into every neural implant, every ship core, every rebuilt mindless overlord, more echo of the collective will that had birthed it. Alina Vasquez stood on the balcony of the rebuilt observatory atop what used to be the ruins of New Madrid, gray streaking her hair like silver lightning, the same patched uniform she'd worn on Fort Defiance, now framed behind glass in a museum she refused to visit. She was 63, body carrying the weight of every decision, every loss. But her eyes still held that dangerous spark, the one that had stared down an empire and refused to blink. Below her, children played in streets once barricaded, their laughter mingling with the hum of hybrid engines lifting cargo haulers toward the new orbital rings. Mateo lived in the outback now, running a school for augmented kids, teaching them not just to fight, but to dream bigger than the stars that had once tried to claim them. He'd married a resistance fighter from Tasmania, had 3 daughters who could sketch hyperspace equations before they could spell their names. Diego had taken to the void, captaining the first post-war expeditionary fleet, charting routes through collapsed Dominion lanes, planting human flags on worlds that had never known defiance before. Marcus Reyes still lived in Buenos Aires. Sophia, now a teenager with her father's steady hands and a mind that could interface with Aegis like breathing. She designed neural bridges tech that let the unaugmented connect safely, closing the gap between baseline humans and those forever changed by the reversal. Voss had passed quietly 5 years after the battle, his ashes scattered on Ceres where he'd hidden so long. His final message to Alina had been simple. "We didn't win because we were better. We won because we refused to stop being human." She kept it on a small drive in her pocket, played it sometimes when the quiet got too loud. Kira's name was etched on the wall of the reborn in Mexico City, not as traitor, but as the one who chose her end to give others a beginning. Alina had insisted on it herself, standing in front of the stone when the monument was unveiled. Voice steady as she read the inscription aloud, she saw the lie and broke it with her last breath. No forgiveness was asked. Forgiveness wasn't owed. Truth was enough. The Covenant was ashes now, its ledger burned in the same fire that consumed the flagship. Humanity had rewritten the galactic contract not with words, but with actions. Emissaries from fractured alien polities arrived yearly at Sol's edge, cautious, respectful, offering trade instead of tribute. They called humans the uncollectible, a title spoken in tones of wary awe. Some species fled at the sight of human ships. Others sought alliance, hungry to learn the secret of a people who turned betrayal into ascension. Alina had met with a few tall luminous beings who once ruled sectors now in ruins. They asked the same question every time. How did you endure? She always answered the same way. We loved what we had more than we feared what you could take. It wasn't poetry, it was fact. Love of family, of dirt under fingernails, of sunsets and stupid jokes, and second chances had been the unbreakable code Aegis amplified. Not cold logic, not superior tech, but the messy, stubborn heart that refused to yield. Tonight, the observatory was quiet, only her and the stars. She leaned on the railing, feeling the faint tremor of a maglev train far below, carrying supplies to the new arcologies. A soft chime sounded Digis, manifesting as a gentle glow beside her, instead of the armored hologram it once favored. The fleet reports from the Perseus arm. It said Diego's group made contact with a refugee convoy. 3 species, fleeing what's left of the old Dominion core. They're asking for sanctuary. Alina nodded slowly. Tell him to bring them home. Aegis paused, a human-like hesitation it had learned over decades. You're thinking of the dead again. She laughed, soft and tired. Always. But not the one they tried to collect. The one we owe ourselves. We survived. We rebuilt. We became something more, not gods, not conquerors, just us, but louder. The AI's glow warmed. Human evolution isn't linear. It's stubborn, recursive, beautiful in its refusal. She smiled at that. Poetic for a machine. I had good teachers. They stood in companionable silence as Earth rotated into dawn, the first light catching the new orbital mirrors that bathed the night side in gentle gold. Humanity's gift back to its cradle, making sure no child ever grew up in true darkness again. Alina thought of Javier, of the boys as toddlers, of Kira's red hair whipping in vacuum, of Marcus holding Sophia for the first time after the reversal. She thought of every soul lost and every one reclaimed, the ledger balanced not in numbers but in stories carried forward. The burning questions had answers now. They hadn't just survived, they'd redefined survival. Alien resistance wasn't crushed. It was transformed into reluctant respect. Sci-fi redemption wasn't a trope. It was the lived truth of a species that paid its debts in fire and came out the other side carrying light for others. She straightened, feeling the old fire flicker but no longer rage, now it warmed. Aegis, she said quietly, record this for the archives. For whoever comes after. The glow brightened. I'm listening. Humanity didn't win because we were destined to. We won because when the galaxy said pay up, we answered, make me. And when it tried, we reminded it why you don't corner a species that invented hope out of nothing and turned grief into starships. Tell them the debt's closed. Tell them the stars belong to anyone brave enough to love them back. She exhaled, long and slow, the weight of decades easing just a fraction. And tell my boys, tell everyone, I'm proud. We all should be. The dawn broke fully, painting the world in colors too bright to ignore. Elena Vasquez, widow, mother, captain, legend turned from the railing and walked inside, leaving the observatory doors open to the morning. Outside, the children kept playing, the trains kept running, the ships kept climbing. Humanity's roar had quieted to a steady heartbeat, strong enough to echo for millennia. The legacy wasn't empire or dominion. It was persistence. It was family. It was the refusal to let the universe have the last word. Did this story hit you as hard as it hit us? What would you do in humanity's final hour? Drop your ideas for the next HFY story below.